how I went from this to this.
Can we turn this graphics card white? That's the question we're about to find out. There's a lot of things that you want to take note when you're painting a GPU, but we'll just kind of brush over those. So in a perfect world, when you have paint, you're going to want to use thermally conductive paint. A lot of that's kind of automotive, but this one really doesn't matter because everything on here is plastic, and that includes the backplate, so we really don't care, so we're just going to go ahead and paint this guy. The first step is like me after a few drinks. We're going to go ahead and undress this guy and go for a screw. Now, if you've never done this before, you might want to draw out some schematics and put your screws where they go, because yes, some are longer and some are shorter. And unlike what women will tell you, size does matter. That looks to be like all the important screws. And when you're breaking this apart, make sure you're doing two things. One, you're going to wiggle back and forth so you can break the thermal paste, but also be careful because there are cables that are lined up for the fans. All right, looks like we've broken this thing loose. And be careful because we need to remove these cables for the fans. Since we're in here, we can go ahead and make sure everything's lined up with the thermal pads, and then we're gonna repaste the die, then we'll be good to go.
Step 2 is cleaning this and then sanding it down. Then we're gonna have to clean it and making sure we get into every little crevice. Kind of like your ex and her new boyfriend. Ouch.
I remember when I first started this channel and I only had 2 fans. Look at me now, I've got 6. Now we can clean the GPU with my favorite tool in the house. This thing does not stop blowing, I swear. Even when you're not ready, it'll blow even harder. Now we're gonna use a microfiber with some isopropyl alcohol in here.
When you're cleaning the GPU, you wanna make sure this thing is spotless. You want it to be so clean that it can pass an STD test, unlike you after that Vegas trip. Now we're just taping all the edges that we don't want painted, and then we're gonna clean it up one last time, give it a nice blowy with my favorite tool, then we're gonna go ahead and step it down to the paint. When spray painting, you wanna do it from about 10 inches and you wanna fog it in. This way you're gonna get clean lines and you're not gonna have any issues with the paint running. That's one of the biggest problems when you do some spray paint.
Time for a second coat. This is the first time I can spray some white stuff without somebody yelling at me. Should've wore gloves.
So here are the parts after we finish painting. The key thing is making sure in between each coat you let it dry and letting it cure completely. What you would do is usually do a clear coat, but this person wanted a matte finish, and I told them that you can chip the paint, just gotta be super careful when you actually install this. Now that we have everything painted, all we have to do is remove the taped off areas and then put this thing back together. Easier said than done, but overall it's not that bad. This card doesn't have that many screws, so it's kind of hard to mess up in this case. Now we can clean the heatsink and get to re-thermal pasting this card. But first, we're gonna use my favorite tool in the house, the one that never stops blowing, and thank goodness it has an off switch because this thing is always turned on. While reassembling the card, this is the first time I've ever been able to screw a fan. And trust me, I want to, but I only have so many, so make sure you guys throw a follow and I'll make sure to make more content like this and make one of your nightmares come true. Overall, I think it came out pretty good. There are some small areas that I could have fixed, but overall, I think this was a win and I think it looks better with the build. What do you guys think?